Hello everybody, welcome, hope you're all well. My name is Richard. In this video I'm going to give you my review of the Cupra Born, and along the way I can give you some comparisons with its sister, the VW ID3. They share the same platform. So what exactly the difference is and what do I think of the Born? So as we look at these two cars, obviously there are different specs, different models, different trims and such like, but let me just explain what we've got here. So this Cupra Born is what they call the V2, the level 2 kind of spec trim. This has got the 58 kilowatt hour usable battery. It's a gross of just over 60. And I'll talk to you a bit about real world range because we did a range test on this in another video. It's a rear wheel drive, 204 PS, 200 brake horsepower, rear wheel drive hatchback, a lot of fun. This ID3, I'll let you into a secret, this is actually my wife's car. You will see that this car has a couple of modifications to it. It actually has some lower end, different wheels, a front splitter, a rear spoiler, which aren't standard. So yes, bear that in mind, but I don't have a standard one here at the moment. However, it is the same 58 kilowatt hour rear wheel drive, 204 PS model. And this is the, if I remember rightly, the Pro Performance version. So you will see some different spectrums and options, but I can still run you through some of the differences and exactly what I think of the Cupra. So underneath the skin, they share the same platform. They are basically the same car, these two. However, we do have quite different styling on the Cupra here, and I think this stands out most from the front. So I think it's got a much more kind of aggressive style to it. This ID3 has a kind of black section on there, bit of a cutesy face, although this one with these lights and a bit lower in the splitter looks a bit meaner, doesn't it? But the Cupra is definitely going for the meaner look. It is kind of intended to be the more sporty version. It actually has a different lowered suspension compared to a standard ID3, slightly faster steering rack as well, and it's kind of been geared up to be the more aggressive, sportier version of the ID3. So what do you think? Looks are going to be subjective, but let me know in the comments below which one you prefer. Do you like these aggressive looks here, the Cupra as mean and menacing as it comes up behind you, or the slightly softer, cuter look of an ID3? Although this one I think does look fairly mean. So the Cupra, one thing you do notice is it's littered with these kind of copper brass coloured bits of trimming. So this bit right across the front here, the big aggressive badge on the front and the Cupra lettering, and then various bits inside. And that's just like our old Hyundai Ioniq. See, it's the same. And here, and on the centre console. So I think from the side is where they look most the same. You can see they've got this distinctive little window at the front here in front of the driver's window. The profile here is the same and the shape here is all the same. You'll see the Cupra has this little scoop up here for a little sporting edge. And this one's on some pretty nice wheels, a bit more aero on this one. And these are 19 inch, I think, yeah, 19 inch wheels. One thing they both share is drum brakes at the back. Now, you don't see that very often, but they do both have the drum brakes at the rear. This bit at the back here is actually dimpled in. And it reminds me of those, I don't know if they're calling it the right thing, those shark suits that swimmers can wear, those body suits that have this kind of effect, a bit like fish scales that create kind of bubbles and reduce friction. So maybe they're trying for the same thing with this. Do you like it or not like it? Yeah, it's all right. Let me come to the back where they're quite different again. So this has a distinctive light bar going right across it here. Oh, it's got a little word Born written on the side there. So LED lights, light bar right across, but this bit here is very different. From the side profile, the Cupra's got a much more distinctive scoop out here. Very similar badge, so that opens the boot like this. Again, some coppery, gold, brassy lettering. And then some quite aggressive diffusers at the back here. So, which one of the two cars do you prefer the rear end of? Let me know in the comments. So as you can see, the ID is much smoother at the back here, but they're both very much the same, where this roof section here comes right out over the hatch and you've got this big inbound section here. So this must be to help airflow. This boiler is extra, by the way, so it wouldn't normally come with that. One thing we do notice with the ID3 is the back does get pretty dirty in dusty or dirty conditions. So this wiper here is definitely needed. Boot space seems to be exactly the same really, which is a pretty large practical space. The seats fold down. I like these little plastic hooks on here, so if you've got to carry a bag of shopping or a takeaway, you can hook that onto there. Just a nice little touch. And there's a very small amount of storage under the back of the boot floor here, just about enough to store a cable in. They both have a 12-volt socket in the boot as well, which is handy. But our ID3 here has a ski hatch as well. So I don't know if that's an optional extra on this, that, or both, or neither, or standard. I don't know, but our one does. Not that you can really see it, but the Cupra has a body-coloured roof, and the ID3 has a black roof. Neither car has any front storage space up here. Both cars have excellent space in the back. It's one of the things that is very useful with our car. In fact, there's been times when I've been at home with something like a Tesla Model 3 or a BMW i4 once actually. We couldn't get a friend's child seat properly in the back, so we took the ID3 and it fitted absolutely fine in there. The rear space for a smaller car here is brilliant. We've got a nice gap between the floor and the seat. It's a very almost flat floor, so I'm going to call that a flat floor. And there's great knee room and there's headroom and just plenty of space. It's really good. We've got two USB sockets down here, but there's one vital thing missing, which is a real bugbear on ours, and this Cupra is exactly the same. There's no rear air vents. There's no vent here, and it could be a perfect air vent there, even if it was just one, there's none here. So on a hot day, it can get a little bit stuffy in the back, and I think that's a major flaw between both of these cars. I just don't understand why they don't have it. Okay, but eventually the air conditioning blows through from the front, so let's move on from that. I do like the texture of the seats in this Cupra more. And they've got a nice little design pattern to them here. So this is the ID3 seat texture. I'm not so keen on that, but these are a bit nicer, I have to say, and some nice little coloured stitching as well. They both have ISOFIX, not just in the back, but also in the front. And they both have this tether point as well. So some car seats, you can come around and just put an extra tether on the seat here to stop the seat moving around. So that's good. So in here is where we start seeing a few differences. So the centre console is the first thing I noticed in the Cupra. It's much more built up. We've got a large sliding compartment here, so two cup holders here, an extra little storage area at the front there. A really convenient phone storage tray there, which I'll just demonstrate to check it's a phone storage tray, like that, with wireless charger. And then one centre armrest here. Under that is a really nice deep storage area actually, with a couple more USBs in the front there. I'm always a bit wary when there's a taller centre console here because it can annoy me when I sit in the car with my knees, but this is fine. And just throughout the cabin in the Cupra, there's a nice little mixture of materials. So these plastics are really nicely kind of finished in a very nice squidgy material. Same with across the dash here. This is all finished in a squidgy material with some sort of cross stitching here. So it's like a sort of fabric here. On the side here is more plasticky, but again, it's textured nicely. Some extra textures there. A nice sort of Alcantara feel, suede feel to this armrest area here with some ambient lighting. Again, nice kind of, this looks like carbon fibre in the steering wheel. Some perforated leather there for the steering wheel there. So it has a nice, good quality feel about it. I mean, you can find a few plastics, of course, but actually everything is just a bit nice and squidgy and pretty well finished. Again, I'm not so keen on the kind of coppery accents here quite so much, but it's not a bad place to be at all. So you can see here immediately that the centre console of the ID3 is much lower down. A little storage net at the front there, a couple of cup holders. Again, wireless phone charger, and then a slide back compartment, which is pretty deep in here, again with a couple of USBs. So because this is lower, we have these separate armrests. I like these armrests, these are great like this. So the Cupra does it by having that raised centre console. This just does it slightly differently, so it's nice to have them, and you can push them out the way if you don't like to have that. It's nice and open. Again, gives me a bit more room to sort of wiggle my legs around here or sit like that if I want to. But you see in the interior here that there just aren't as many of the nicer, more premium materials. This is quite plasticky. Again, sort of rubberized, that is a bit squishy, but there's a bit more of this kind of grey plastic around, a less mixture of materials. We've also got those haptic buttons, but unlike the Cupra, I can actually just push that button there and it will turn the volume up and down. So I find these less easy to catch by mistake and just easier to use, so that's better. Again, the screen and interface works in a very similar way with Apple CarPlay, all working good. And then we've got the same kind of display up here with a couple of options for changing what's in this view, and then your drive selector at the top here. So very similar really. I do appreciate not having those annoying vent slots that don't line up though. That's better. Here we've got a larger screen than our ID3, so I think they come with a larger screen as standard, not that there's a vast amount of difference. And that brings me on to the kind of software and interface here. So they're pretty similar between the two cars, and that is basically that it's okay, but it's kind of fairly basic. It can be a little bit laggy when you press certain things, but it works. VW Group had a lot of criticism about the software in their cars. We found ours, again, sort of fairly basic compared to some stuff. It's not a Tesla, but it's been fine. It works. It's been okay. We've got wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. So that, I think it all works okay. We've not had any issues or crashing with ours. It's just a little bit slower than some and a bit more basic than some other cars now, but it's all pretty nice. It's nice to have a little display in front of the driver here where we can switch between different versions of the views that show you your lane assist and bits like that. But let's get on to some of the annoying bits of this car, because there are a couple. Like the ID3, we've got haptic buttons on here, but the ones in the Cupra are even more annoying. It's even easier to touch them by mistake, and so constantly you're driving along, you easily push things and it beeps and it does a different mode and your cruise control goes up to 80 and that kind of thing. But even then, with the volume control, I just want to push that one to turn the volume up, but that doesn't work. You have to stroke it up to change the volume and stroke it down to change the volume. And it's just irritating, it really is. So not so keen on that. Then this is one for the OCD people, the air vents, right? So this is, somebody else wouldn't get this. So we've got these air vents here, but I want to move the air up a little bit. Fine, nice and easy, just move it, you haven't got to go through screens. But this now doesn't line up, and that really bugs me. I was constantly sitting in the car lining up these air vent slats. Would anyone else do that, or was that just me? Let me know in the comments below. So I know I'm being a bit pedantic, but I did find it rather annoying. So the haptic steering wheel buttons, the vents, annoying. Also, when you turn the volume up and down, it beeps on the screen. I can't find a way to turn that off. Even when you push the light on and off up here, it beeps. Can't find a way to turn that off. I can certainly find a way to turn this one off. I'll do that. So it's nice, it's well finished. Visibility, I think, is pretty good. You do have this kind of slightly different to some cars window at the front here, which I think does work. I don't know what you do without it. They need this windscreen slope for aero. So some people say that impedes visibility. I think it depends where you sit in your seat. If you sit a long way back, it creates quite a kind of blind spot. But actually, as long as you're not right back, it does give you visibility there. This one's got a head-up display as well, which is nice to have. And that even does some augmented navigation on that head-up display as well. It doesn't kind of show you the front camera type of augmented, but it will put an arrow in the road, and as you get closer, it will zoom in and show you. But it's nice to have a head-up display in this particular model. And again, the seats are just kind of a nice material, nicely finished. They're a little bit more supportive and bolstered compared to the ID3. We've got this little hole in the seats here, and then we've got some quite nice squishy headrests there. So I found it plenty comfortable enough to be in for the day. Driver assist, right, one thing here. Driver assist, smart assistance. Yeah, how smart are these? So lane assist. I can turn this lane assist off. And I quite often want to turn lane assist off because when you're driving through some town roads and on country roads, you'll often need to deliberately cross the centre line of the road because there's a parked car, because it's a narrow country lane, etc. Fine, but the next time I drive the car, it will be on again. And so you're driving along and suddenly the steering is tugging at you to keep you off of the white line. You can quite easily override it, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's annoying. If I turn it off, I like it to always be off. Maybe I want it to only be on the motorway, where it makes much more sense and is far less intrusive. I'm sure the cars these days can realise when they're on motorways, or just when they're travelling above 60 miles per hour, for example, and then it would be on again by default. Now, some people say, well, these are on every time because it's a security feature, but we've got a new Tesla over there, and that you can turn it off, and it stays off. So I don't think it's anything to do with legislation. Some people might not mind. I get that it's a safety feature, but actually I think it can be counterproductive in a number of scenarios, and I'd rather the option just to keep it off permanently if I chose to. The Cupra has LED headlights, they do the job, but our ID3 has these dynamic matrix LED option on here. We've got a light bar that goes across the front, which looks pretty funky, but these headlights, I kid you not, are some of the best headlights I've had on any car that I've driven. They are proper cornering headlights, they actually move around, they're dynamic and matrix, they do loads of stuff, and they are just brilliant. I absolutely love driving this car at night with these headlights. And even when you walk up to the car at night, it does a really cute little wake-up procedure where it kind of like wakes up, looks around at you, and then they gradually get brighter. So they've got a really nice little light animation to these as well. I highly recommend having these headlights in your ID3 because they are excellent. And what's the Born like to drive compared to the ID3? Well, our one there has had a couple of modifications to sharpen it up a little bit because the standard car is a little softer and squishier and a bit more of an all-rounder. Totally understand that. The Cupra, though, has been designed from factory to be just a bit more sporting feeling, so slightly faster steering, lowered suspension as standard. So it is the sportier car, and in fact, now that ours is like that, they're actually quite similar. So it's nice, it's not bad. Compared to the Teslas, it's not as quick, but it's quite a nippy car. 200 horsepower on the rear wheels. If it's wet, you can even slide the back around a bit if you wanted to, but the traction control kicks in really quickly. This suspension though, around town, it is on the firmer side. You will notice all the bumps and potholes around town. Once you get out onto the motorway though, it's fairly settled and isn't too bad at all. It's quite a comfortable car. They're both fairly quiet. I think in my mind, our ID3 there is definitely quieter than this car though. This car, even at medium town speeds, you get a lot more road roar and noise coming through into the cabin. That ID3 is actually very, very quiet. We've got actually the standard tyres on that, so not like the wide or especially narrow tyres. But the ID3 seems quite quiet. In fact, it's one of the quietest cars. When I first drove an ID3, drive down the road, I thought this is exceptionally quiet, really well suppressed wind noise and road noise. This seems to have a little bit more road noise in my opinion. These are standard wheels and tyres, but maybe just because these are Continental, those are Goodyears, the Goodyears are quieter. But it's a moderately sporty feeling, a little bit firm but settles on the motorway, but quite comfortable for doing long journeys. And so when you do a long journey, what is it like for a real world range? Well, we did a proper range test on this, and you'll see in our last video, we drove in a mixture of country and motorway roads, and we averaged actually on that day covering over 200 miles, 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty good. We do see on ours more like 3.6, 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour, but that's mainly doing a school run and all those little short trips where you're heating the cabin up or cooling the cabin down quickly. So you can quite easily get over 4 miles per kilowatt hour with one of these, and a real world range translates to about 220 miles. No doubt in the winter, again, lots of little short trips heating the cabin, you'll be under 200 miles. But on a run, you can quite happily get these cars over 200 miles of range, 225, 230, and then they charge at 130 kilowatts, which isn't too bad at all. That'll be at a lower state of battery, then they gradually slow down, but a 30-minute stop will take the car most of the way back up charged, so coffee and a lunch, and you'll be on your way again for another couple of hours driving. So there we have it, the Cupra Born. A nice little all-round package, not too big, not too small.
That's what she said.
It's a well-spec car, nice looks, good space, under £40,000. Depends which trim and options you get, but as most of the versions are under £40,000. There's a bigger battery version available if you want it as well, if you do lots of longer journeys. So I really like it. It's a nice sized car, and the proof of the pudding is that we've had our ID3 for a number of months now, and it really suits us as a second car in the household. Again, just for that purpose, it's mainly doing the school runs, I'll admit, so it's small enough, practical enough and easy enough around town, but it's still capable of doing the longer journeys as well, even with a full family. There's great passenger space inside. Which one do I prefer? Well, it's subjective, isn't it? There's little details I like of this one, there's bits I prefer of this one, and I think which one you would prefer would be down to your opinion, looks and those details which I've tried to highlight in this video. So let me know in the comments below what your preference would be, ID3 or Cupra Born. I'm just going to cast a quick vote amongst all the team here. Can you stand by the car that you prefer? Whether you like the brand, the looks, the image, the interior, the exterior, stand by your car. We're going to call that 3 votes to 4, the Cupra wins. But both of them are excellent cars. So I hope that's been useful. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to just hit the little like button below, leave a comment, share the video around. It all helps us with boosting our content and being able to make more videos. And don't forget to follow us on all the social media platforms as well. But for me, for now, that's it. And I hope you enjoyed that review. Hey everyone, thanks for watching our videos. If you like our content and want to see more, don't forget to not only subscribe but also hit the bell icon for notifications so you don't miss any new videos as they're uploaded. Plus, we're also on Instagram, just look up R Simons or RSEV. We're on Facebook and Twitter. So lots of news, stories and things as we go on each one of those channels.